Hey everyone. Hey, hi. Okay, let's wait. Hey everyone. Let's wait one more minute, then we'll start. Also, is my voice audible? Is it everything clear? Is everything good? Good evening, Mahesh. Cool. Cool. Okay. So, how many have joined earlier, like onto the yesterday session? Give it a plus one. Those who have joined the previous session, and was it helpful? Let me know into the comments your doubts for the previous session, and then we'll move forward to today's session. Okay. Okay. Yep. Okay. Seems good. Cool, cool, cool. Great. So today's session is about CSS and JavaScript. Since we have covered the internet fundamentals, like the normal ones, also we have covered the HTML thing, right? So I taught you how to write HTML. We write it using tags, and I told you the functionalities of it, like what type of tags are there, like head tag, body tag, different things. We also wrote some CSS there, and some of the functionality, like we tried writing some of the HTML code. That is pretty basic. We like don't need to tell you how to write a lot of things in it. It's just super straightforward. So you can, if you see the documentation, you will understand, like the way we write it, right? Same thing happens with CSS, but CSS is pretty much like sometimes complicated, sometimes pretty easy. Also, today's session about CSS, but I want you guys to let me know if you want to like implement some of the CSS, or yeah, facing problem in position relative and update. Okay, okay, we'll talk about that. So in today's session, we'll talk about CSS a bit, and then we move on to the JavaScript. Okay, and let me know your doubts into the comments. Then. Cool. Okay, great. So Rohit is saying like he having issue with position relative and absolute, right? Okay. So what happens is like okay, we have this here. Uh, let me add the let me present my screen. So is my screen visible? Anyone confirm? Is it visible? Is it visible? Anyone? Cool. Okay. Hello, anyone? Cool. Okay. Okay. So what happens with so first thing, those who don't know that this is property onto any of the element, adding like display property, like position property of relative and absolute. But what they mean really? So for that, let's just understand. Let's say this is your web page document. Okay, this is the web page document. Okay, now let's say this is your screen, right? So you have some of the tags here, like let's say we have some box. Let's say just make let's make two boxes here. This is one, and this is the second one, right? Let's make another one. Let's say this is a button. Okay, Now, uh, let's say you added what you added property of absolute with this and relative with this, right? Relative with this, absolute property with this and relative with this, right? What happens is absolute property is like applied onto the relative of the parent. What I mean by that is absolute property works onto the whole document, right? Since let's say let me okay, this is our document. So let me just write some code and then I'll tell you. Okay, right. So what you can see here is this is a div and its child is h1, right? You see this? Its child is h1, right? Cool. Now who's the parent? Div is the parent, right? And if I give it a class of like if I give it a style of relative and I give it a style of absolute. Now what happens is absolute looks for the parent that is their the relative parent, right? So so it actually fits into the space of whoever is the relative to it. So let's understand it this way. I'm using the red marker for the one that is relative. So let's say this div okay, let's say this div is relative, right? This div is relative and all of the other child that we have like h1s, those are going to be, so these are the absolute ones, right? Okay, so what is going to happen is जो जो रिलेटिव वाले जो चाइल्ड हैं लाइक द रेड वन इज द रिलेटिव वन एंड जो अंदर वाले हैं वो कौन से हैं, एब्सोल्यूट हैं. सो एब्सोल्यूट वाले मतलब दे आर नॉट गोइंग टू क्रॉस ओवर, दे आर नॉट गोइंग टू क्रॉस ओवर द अदर डेव्स, लाइक दे आर गोइंग टू बी अंडर दिस पर्टिकुलर वन. ओके, और अ- अगर हम इसको कैसे यूज करें, अगर हम इसको होल डॉक्यूमेंट के ऊपर यूज करें, लेट्स से आई मेड दिस div एक्चुअली, so it is relative to this only document, right? What if you make absolute it to the body? So into the code part, let's say this is the whole body part, right? Whole body part. Now this is relative by default, like this is relative. Let's say and you write something here, snap bar, right, and give it a style of absolute or sticky, right? So what is going to happen is it is going to be there. So वो डॉक्यूमेंट को इंटरफेयर नहीं करेगा, इट इज गोइंग टू बी आउट लाइक आउटसाइड द डॉक्यूमेंट पार्ट, राइट? So understand. Okay, okay. So understand this way that जो भी एब्सोल्यूट वाले एलिमेंट्स होते हैं, दे दे बिहेव एज अ कंटेनर, दे बिहेव एज अ कंटेनर इनसाइड वॉट एवर इज रिलेटिव दैम. और अगर रिलेटिव हमें आउटसाइड नहीं दिया है, सो दे then it is default relative, right? So let's say हमने specify नहीं किया है, so it is default relative to the body, right? This navbar is actually related to this and this is absolute, right? So so it's going to be inside this container, or also if the particular, so this body represents the whole document, right? So if you see some navbar, right, let's see our side actually. You see this navbar. Let's look into the css of it, how css. So you can see that we have relative here, right? We have relative here, this one, this one is the top, relative to what, the whole document. So that's why it is here. We can discuss it using, I guess, some of the codes that can be here. Yeah. we can definitely do that. I'll be sharing the, I guess, the notes for it. So we do have it here. The notes for the CSS, I think. Yep. So we have everything about here. So Flexbox is great, and anything like onto the CSS property. So you just look at them and like understand whatever in there, right? It's pretty much straightforward. Okay. So I'll be sharing it with you, and with that, let's move on to the JavaScript thing now. Okay. So for that, let's write some JavaScript here. As I told you onto the As I told you onto the previous session that we are going to drive onto the JavaScript. Now we can write also JavaScript here only. So let's just write JavaScript onto the HTML tag, right? We can also have these HTML tags here, right? We can have the body tag, and we have some other things, but let's just not write them as of now. So into the script tag, you can also write JavaScript, right? So right now we are going to write it here only, and then we will try to write it here. Okay, cool. So let's talk about JavaScript first. Basically, it's like any other language. So you see, in any other language, we do have like thing. Let's say variables. We do have variables, loops, if-else statement, objects. We all have it. So how you declare a variable? It's like using I told you in the previous session. Like let's say this, and we can use that const, right? So what was difference with this? The only difference, like there's not a major difference. The only difference is that they are definitely capable of storing any value. So the thing is, जो जैसे जो वेरिएबल जो स्टोर कर पा रहा है वो लेट भी स्टोर कर पाएगा, वो कॉन्स्ट भी स्टोर कर पाएगा. ऐसा नहीं है कि वेरिएबल कोई वैल्यू स्टोर कर पा रहा है, लेट्स से इंटीजर फ्लोट, एंड कॉन्स्ट इज नॉट गोइंग टू स्टोर दैट. दे आर हैव कैपेबल ऑफ स्टोरिंग द वैल्यूज, right? But what the catch there is, like the catch is, you see const. So const is specified for what? You can't really like change, you can't really like reassign a value to it. So if I try to do that, जैसे कॉन्स्ट में मैंने 10 स्पेसिफाई कर दिया वैल्यू. नाउ इफ आई ट्राई टू डू अगेन, if I try to do that again, yeah, if I try to do that again, it is going to show me a error. Okay, it's going to show me an error that it is a const variable, it cannot be redeclared, right? Yeah. And let is there let is there for just for the scope of a particular block. So let's say we have a function here, let's say func, right? And we declared a variable here, right? So that is being scoped to the particular function, and we can use where like so you understand the purpose. If you don't uh, going to change your data afterwards, or if you don't want someone to change it, let's say pi, the value of pi. So value of pi is like 3.14, right? So that is constant. Value of pi is specified 3.14 and so on. You are not going to change it in your program anywhere, right? So you should keep it as const. Even if someone tries to like change it, like let's say 123, so that is like that is wrong, and you should like you should use const with that, because that is the behavior that you want, right? I value should be 3.14, that's why we are using const. So there's only two things need to catch from there is use const when we don't need to redeclare thing. Okay, cool. Also, we can use let and var for purpose or like for normal purposes if you want. Okay, that was about the variables. The function are pretty basic, right? Just function there, and the name of the function. Let's say name. These are the parameters here, and we have the parenthesis to write the function here, right? The way we print something is onto the using console log. So I think like a lot of you might know this, right? Hey there, I do this, and I also need to call the function definitely. So yeah, so we can see yeah, we can see if, let it reload first. Yeah, let me open it. Cool. See there, the hey there is being printed onto the console, right? That's how you go there. Just inspect it and go to the console. Cool. You can write JavaScript here also. You can manipulate the data. You can also like do these things, right? Normal pretty stuff. Now, why like these things are normal? Baki languages may be हैं, right? Function and all classes and things. But what is different? You can also manipulate your DOM, like the document that is there. So ये जो HTML तुम देख रहे हो, you can also manipulate this. So let's say I only use h1. So अभी h1 के अंदर कुछ नहीं, right? अभी it's just empty. But what you can do is, you using JavaScript you can manipulate all that. So how are we use, like we can do that is using document. So let's understand this. Document is an object that holds your web page, right? So this document does have this whole web page, and you can like grab things from it and inject things from, like let's say we have this h1 tag. So this document does have h1 tag as of now. You can also like confirm if it is an object. So let's console that. Anywhere you want to debug something, you should like console everything, right? In that you understand. So let's console what type of document is there. What is, yeah, you see it's an object, right? So let's understand. So this object is a referral to this particular document. So how we can manipulate this? Okay, so let's see document here. And now there are pretty much a lot of functions here, but what we want is like target h1 and like inject some of our code whatever we want to. So we have pretty much other functions, so let's talk about them. So the way we can do this, I've told you like we can have classes here in the previous class, right? We can have classes here, we can have id here, right? And we have a tag of h name like h1, right? So you can do this like get element by id or get element by class name, right? Class name is there, or get element by tag name. Cool. So that's how you can grab your particular tag. So we see h1 here. So we can specify the id. So id is a for that particular tag. We can also have class one a, and the tag name is h1, right? So what is happening here is like this this particular thing is going to reference is this is going to reference this is going to reference like what we have now is actually ये जो HTML में जो हमारा h1 tag है, we have it now into the JavaScript. Now since we do have it, we can start manipulating it. Also, as I told you, we can also debug that. So let's try that console logging and see what it holds, right? Let's do this. Yeah, let's remove that. You see this? It got the h1 tag, right? So it took the h1 tag from the HTML and it's there. Now what we can do is we talked about the variable, right? So we can definitely store it into variable. So let's call it a h1 reference, right? We now what we have is the reference of this h1 that uses the id of a, right? बाकी बात किसी के पास id है ही नहीं. Well, right now it's just only a single element that is having a id of a. Since let's say there's another h1, right? That is created, but let's remove the id and class from here. Okay, cool. So what is going to happen? Is it going to reference this one, first one, or second one? So h1 reference जो है, let me know into the comments. Where is it going to reference? The first one or the second one? Then we can start manipulating it. H1 reference we have. Yep. We must test the work first. Yeah, cool. So first one is referencing there. So since yeah, H1 ये भी था second वाला. So the here there should have been also here, right? But it is targeting the only first element because we have specified the ID that is A और ID किसका है H1 tag के first वाले का, right? So let's try. So since here there इसमें यहाँ ऐसे हम मैन्युअली लिख देते हैं और ये जो फर्स्ट वाला है that we are trying to do by JavaScript. So you see like HTML we can write it this way or we can manipulate it by JavaScript. So you understand? We have the reference. Now let's try to make a simple project here. We can let's say this is the H1 tag and we are going to show like good evening and good morning on the basis of what we have right now. So let's say it's the evening. So evening is true definitely. Like up for it true, right? Yeah. Let's comment this down. Now if the evening is true, right? We can have this here. Since we had the reference of the H1, we can definitely copy it from here, and we have the reference here. And the H1 reference, and its inner HTML is going to be this. Here, right? Cool. And if that is not the case, we are going to do that. Uh, I don't know. Yeah, we do have like since you have may learned the Java like DSA, so you should know these are like booleans and all. So the evening is true, right? So that's why it is printing good evening. Also, like this is what the data we were trying to inject. What else we can do? So since we have the H1 reference, we can also style it using JavaScript. So let's try that too. But style. So style does have, so that particular reference has access to the style, and style does have access to a lot of things. So you see these properties, you can definitely manipulate them. So let's just try changing the color as of now. So that is red. Okay. And yeah, if it's evening the color is red, and if that is the case it's the blue. Okay, since evening is true, right? Evening is true, so we have the red color and we have the code injected data as good evening. But what else we can do is like we can definitely shorten this code. So how we can do that is like, let's remove all this. Mm, let's use operators. So that is the case. Looks pretty much same, right? Also for the color, we can definitely do that using, yeah, right? Let's see if that works. It's working, and if I make it false, it's going to work again. Yeah, so see this, we are actually manipulating the data using JavaScript. We are also trying to manipulate the CSS for the particular text using JavaScript, right? Yeah. So All great. Yep. So you understand this? What we can do with JavaScript? So like you understand till now, like using these particular get element and all, like these functions get like query selector. We are going to we can take the user input also, and we'll also do a pretty cool I would say a project using that just now. So no doubt about that. So the key thing was manipulate HTML using these functions. So just get the reference of it and try changing the HTML styling. A lot of stuff that is there. Yeah. So let's try doing a cool project that I was trying to tell you. Okay, right. So we can definitely manipulate the data. Now what we can do is we can store the, let's say, enter your password. Now I'm going to explain what that actually, right? So let's see if it shows. So it shows us a prompt. So what this prompt actually does is it shows the user input field, right? And we say enter your password, right? Cool. So so since if we apply some like give it a data, it is going to be stored onto this data part. So what we can what we can do is we can specify, yep. So we can specify the username, we can specify the password, right? So yeah, we have information here, right? So let's say we have some information onto the .env file. So may you guys may know about the .env file, like it says onto the when you learn about the frameworks and all. So we have data there and we can access like using process.env. Video stopped. Is video have stopped, guys? And can anyone confirm? Is it working fine or not? Okay. So let's just define some of the data. So let's say for user, so the user thing is like user just not just user. Let's try to make it admin. Also, password is admin, right? So we like password and username is not going to be changed. That's why we use const, right? And we do have the prompt data. So what we can do is like we can check if the user is equals to username and password is equals to password. Then we do have the reference of this h1, right? So that is we can manipulate that HTML key, right? Or put a go back home here. So it was pretty easy. We had these variables, these data of user and password. So we are going to have this here. So it is going to ask us for the prompt of username and password, and let's just do it. We do give it as admin, right? I think let's reload. Yeah, username is admin, right? And also the password is admin. You are a valid user, right? How did it happen? I was like we had this see ये कोई बड़ा project नहीं था definitely, but what the thing there was okay, you can make it definitely a big project. How? You have the data of user and password, and you can definitely that like cross check that those things using like you can. So this since we access this URL, जब हमने ये URL access किया, so it asked us for username and password. So that's how you can encrypt a user like URL. So अपनी साइट पे अगर तुम्हें कोई URL encrypt करना है, so you can just put a prompt of this username and password. Keep your data fields onto a like somewhere that is like encrypted, and then you can compare the those data, and onto the basis of that data you can manipulate these things, right? So if username password that does match, right, both matches, then otherwise just, so we can do it again. If I try to show the wrong data, so let's say some wrong thing again. Yeah, to go back home, right? Because I'm not a valid user. So when you make your admin when you have some admin sites on your website, you might, but that is not the best thing. That's not a good way to do it. But you get the idea, right? how we could how we could, like, as a beginner, you might get some idea like how this thing is happening, right? And there are pretty much good frameworks that could help you doing that. But that's how we built a encrypted URL, and we are having a username and password and showing the user that fields, also manipulating the data. So was it a good one? Like, was it cool? Let me know into the chat. Duo plus one was it good, everyone? It's not that definitely cool, but yeah, it works. Everyone, was it? Whole design of my so yeah, you can definitely, like, JavaScript is there to help you. You can add functionality to it. Yep. What kind of functionality you want to add? Can you specify? Yep. Let's talk about functions. So functions in JavaScript is not just functions. There are like a whole lot of things that going on to it. Onto the advanced session, we can definitely learn about callbacks, event listeners, and a lot of things that is onto the function. Let's make a simple function as of now. So we wrote function here. Let's call it func1. Right, that is a simple function, and it's just logging its name, right? Func1, right? Cool. Let me let's not do this, right? This func2 is returning a function that is func1, right? That is it. You can also do a log here, func1, func2, that is inside this function. Let's try to call it. Let's call the func2, and also what's inside it. So, let's try to call func1 2, right? And also func2 again, we're calling it again. So let's see what happens. Let's just simple console log here. That would be pretty easy to guess. Right? And we're returning a function here. Let me call func2 here. Let me call func2 this way. Now, just tell me what is going to be the output into the comments. Yeah, tell me the output about it. What's going to be the output for this? Anyone? And I'll tell you the behavior. What behavior it is proceed, like what's happening inside. Everyone. So we have called two functions. What is going to be printed? Anyone? Even if there are wrong guesses, you can definitely put it into the comments. There's no problem with that. Just put it. Funk one. Everyone's saying funk one. Okay. Funk two. Also, I think there are two logs. So what is going to be that? So since what we are doing is we called func2 here, we called func2 here. Since we called func2 here, it runs this particular code. Okay, so when this particular code is running, this console log happens func2, right? It printed func2. Okay, now it is going to return this function. It returns func1, but it is going to be stored there, so we are not doing something with that. Since func2, this particular thing, this particular part, this particular part is having the reference to this func1. So when we call this part, ये जो इतना part है, that is the reference to func1, and when we called it here. You see this, that's the difference. Func2 has the reference of func1, and we only called it first time. It did the console log for us, and onto the second part, it had the reference. We again called it. So we had the reference for func1 onto this func2 part, and we called it again since we got this log, right? So let's look at it. Look at our answer. Did it build? Cool. Oh. I put capital there. Sorry about that. Okay, let it reload. Okay. Yeah, so you saw this func1 was being called, so that this this log actually happened, right? Again, func2 is being so func2 had the reference of func1, and we called that again. So func2 was being called again, and this func2 has the reference and was called again, and it called this func1, right? So that's how we can chain these functions, right? It is helpful sometimes, but we are going to cover, like we are going to cover this in callbacks and other things. Like we have this concept of call stack and memory about JavaScript, like how JavaScript handles the memory onto the web, like website browser, right? We have this task queue, micro task queue, promises, closures, right? So that's pretty advanced, like they are pretty basic but pretty advanced stuff onto the same time, right? So you you had the idea about it, right? Cool. So you understand like how much potential these different function, like you can do this in another language too, but since this is pretty basic, you might got an idea like how this is going to be implemented. So was it cool? Anyone into the comments? Was it cool? This is not anything, it was just some basic code, but we can start scratching its surface, we can start learning the more stuff about it, and you're going to be amazed with that. Plus one into the chat anyway. Cool. Okay, we also have objects here. So since a lot of object oriented languages are having objects, so since JavaScript also do have objects, so we can call it object, right? We have, let's say, the one that is some data, right? Another data too, that is another data, right? You can access it using object dot operator, right? So this is particular object, and you can access the data for it, right? So you see data one, data two, so that's how you to basically make an object out of it. Now this cool thing you can do. Okay, since this is object one, this is object two, right? We have this data, same data. The data is same, right? But the variable name is different, but data is same definitely. So let's do another thing here where a is equals to 10 and where b is equals to 10. Just try to see if that is equal, and I'll tell you the behavior, right? A is equals to b, right? Let's try to check it here also. If object one is equal to object two, so what we are trying to say, like you see this, the data is obviously same. The same data is being printed. Data one is same data two, so both of the objects are having the same data. Also here we have the same data in A and B. So we are checking for both of them. Let me know into the comments what is going to be the output of this, and I'll tell you a pretty cool thing about why it did happen. Anyone? Let me know the output for this. Okay, anyone? Do do comment your doubts, guys. Do be interactive. Like, yeah, obviously I'm going to print it, but show me like what are your guesses? What should be what it should be? I told you like how it's, so they have the same data. Yeah, true. Okay, true, false. Okay. Anyone else? Let's see, and why it did happen. I'm making another mistake somewhere. Did I? Hmm. Did I make any mistakes? Hmm. Okay. Sorry about that. Objects don't have this. Okay. Silly. So even writing some quality code, you see these silly mistakes. So the answer is true and false. So some of you are right. Like, yeah, definitely. Both object have same because true. No. Object have same data, but why is it false? Both of the objects have same data. Object one has and object two has the same data, but why is it showing false? Right, Rohit? Why is it showing false? Let's try this. So this checking operators. Yeah, yeah. So Aztec is right. So what happens with object is like it is going to check for the like they are being created at a different location, right? Object one definitely has the same data as the data as object two, but they are at the different locations. That's why, right? Since it is A and B are pretty same here. Yeah. So that was the difference for the comparison. What do you mean by two data, Kunal? To show the comparison between two data, can you specify? To be precise. Yeah. It's not. I think it's not. Yep. Different memory, right? Yep. So even if like, so why I'm telling you this is that let's say you have some data in your env. So I told you we do have like data in your in price or something. You do have the data and you are coming back with the data from somewhere like json data that is from some api or something. Since data is same, but if you are doing the cross check, it is like giving you a false, right? So that's where you need to handle, right? You need to consider this topic. Guessing true and false if the both output shows, right? So that's where you need to consider these are the topics, right? Also javascript is this was about like we have things in other languages too, but we didn't talk about uh, using it in html. So since we talked about getting like fetching that particular text, so let's do it again. Let's give it an id. Easy. Cool. So it does now have the reference. So it shows all of the things that you can do here, right? So what we can do is we can add event listeners to it. What is an event listener? Is there anyone? Let's make it a button. Also, we can manipulate it using that also. Okay, let's do that this way. So we since we do have the reference, we'll make it a button using JavaScript. I'm going to make it this way. Hit a button. Cool. Since you can see into the HTML, we have simple h1 tag, right? But we manipulated it using JavaScript, and since we made the inner HTML of this as button, right? We don't have any of the code here, or we can do this way. So it's the same thing, right? So both of these tags are showing the same UI. Like, let's make it a button. See, but what is the difference? The first one we manipulated it using JavaScript, and the second one is manually there. So if there are some of the events that you want to show in your UI, right? Yeah, that's how event listeners work. Yeah, so that's how event listener works. So what is an event actually? Let's discuss about that first. Then we will do this. What particular event listener do? So you understand what is an event actually. Event onto the website is interaction of the client to the website. Okay, and how these interactions can be using your input devices, that is keyboard, mouse, right? You can click, you can give the like, you hover over something, you can double click, you can like swipe, scroll. These are the events, right? If you are idle, you can't really, you are not interacting with the website. But since you are using these input devices, you are interacting with the website, so that is actually an event. Since I have specified the click event here, right? So there are a lot of event, the specified event for the website. You can like, I'll give you the resources what type of events, and you can practice them. Right now what we are focusing in on the click event. So what is a click event? That is just simply clicking on something. So we do have a button here, I'm just clicking on it. So just get this straight. Document is what? Document is the object of that like particular web page, the whole web page, right? Get element by id is fetching that particular h1 tag here, right? By id because this one is only having the id. Cool. Now this particular code part is having the reference of what? This is first HTML H1, right? We also console logged it and we saw that. Now, since we got it, we are adding an event listener. So using dot operator, we can access to the functionality that is there. So so onto the first one, we are adding an event listener. Let's remove this one for the. We are adding an event listener onto which this reference, and which reference is this H1, right? So we have the event listener, add event listener. That's how you write it, and we have specified two things there. The first one is the yeah, the first one is the event. So you need to specify the event, that is like I've specified click, and by separating the another parameter is the function. So first is the event and another parameter is function, right? So this is a simple like you can write function this way, like using the fat arrow operator, or you can just wait, this way, like this also works, right? That was it's the same thing. So the event is click and the function is function, right? So using JavaScript, what we could do, we got the reference to that particular point. We added an event listener, and the event is click, and on the it is being clicked, the function is going to be called. And what we have onto the function, we are having this here, right? Console log here. So let's see if that works. You see this bunch of hairs, right? Okay. That is cool. Now let's try to so let's say I create a global let's say I create a global counter, that is one, and I'm going to increase it every time this function is being called. Since that is a global counter, it is its value is going to be changed from the previous one. It's not going to be one and two between those, right? And we are going to print it that onto the UI since we are clicking on something. So let's target another element. Let's target an H2 here. I wrote ready. So let's do this. ID. I'm giving it as yeah. Let's get this using. Let's get the reference. Pretty basic. The ID is B. So this is having the reference. Let's store it onto. Since we are not going to change the reference, we can store it into the const, right? So we can call it H2ref, right? How you do it. So H2ref is having the reference of that particular first thing, right? So what we are going to do is onto the H2ref, just make it in a HTML. In HTML is nothing but the targeted elements HTML is being replaced with the HTML that we are going to specify between these codes. Okay. So what we are going to specify, we are going to specify the counter, right? So whatever the counter is, okay. Let's try this. If there are any errors or bugs, that's cool. The more you practice, the more you silly mistakes you see, you like get better with it. So since onto the UI we don't see anything, but since we see it, like, is it definitely it's a very basic and small, like, very basic project, but you get the idea, right? And what are the things involved here? This const is having the reference. So reference is not being changed. That's why we are having the const. This is the global variable, right? So since we have it globally, if I had it here, what is going to be printed onto the UI? Let me know into the comments, please. But yeah, so web page पर अगर लाना है, so just target any of the element onto your, like, we are manipulating the HTML using JavaScript, right? So just make any of the tag name and just target that, gets its reference, and we can show that onto the web page. Okay, simple stuff. Yeah. So what is going to be the output? Let me know before clicking. Yeah. So I'm going to click on it, but let me know the like what it going to show. Yeah, so it clicked. Okay, no problem. But it is just showing me two. Why is that? Just let me know into the comment. These are the pretty basic things. Yeah, it is showing two, and previously it was showing like a counter, right? But it's showing just two right now. Why is that? Anyone can specify? It's pretty basic thing. You can see the code again. It's a pretty messy code. Let me. Yeah, cool. So since we have specified the counter here, right? So what is happening? This particular variable is being created again when the function is being called, and its counter variable is being like its value is being increased, and then it is going to print it onto the UI. पहले क्या हो रहा था? It was globally here. Since it was globally, so function जब भी call कर रहे हैं, it's not going to create that counter again, right? It's not going to create that counter again. It's just going to take that value, increase it, and print it onto the UI. Yeah. So now it's working. So what was the catch behind it? It was like declaring things globally and locally, right? It's not about making some good projects, bigger projects. It's not about, yeah, it's not about that. It's just that you make these small programs. You understand what is the under the hood things, like you understand how, why is it working, right? And that's how you come up with some really good projects, but while you are working on someone's project. So understanding these building blocks, you you can definitely make your own projects easily, right? Because there are going to be errors, bugs, but since your building blocks, like your route is clear, you can definitely find that this is the issue. That is, like, let's say it was previously here, right? तो अगर किसी को पता नहीं है अगर किसी को पता नहीं है कि अगर इसको ग्लोबली नहीं करेंगे तो इस वैल्यू इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी इंक्रीज, इट इज क्रिएटिंग अगेन एंड अगेन, राइट? सो दैट आर द थिंग्स that you should have in your mind, right? So we are manipulating the data using JavaScript, right? So what else we did? We did these things. What we manipulated the HTML. We also changed the styling of it. Like we can change the styles using CSS, using JavaScript. We also added event listeners. So event listeners plays a pretty much good role into JavaScript because user is interacting with your website. It's good, doing a lot of stuff. It's like clicking buttons here and there. A lot of things is happening. So that's where this event listener thing actually comes in handy, right? So that was like about event listeners. It's pretty easy, right? And you might not see these type of things when you learn about React and all. Like we're coming up with some good like a project, portfolio project about React. So you're going to see that there a different way of writing all this. This is like traditional way of using it. Okay. So any doubts about this event listener? It is having just two parameters, the event and the function, right? Like was it like anyone who have understood? Give it a plus one. Try to make your own projects. A very simple one, making a stopwatch, making a counter. Like these are the things, right? Then you can definitely move forward to bigger things. What language did launch? Yeah, so it's in React. Actually, like, we are using Next.js for LaunchPadx. Yeah, and it's TypeScript there. Yeah. What happens is it's not that some other other thing, like it's just there are frameworks you have heard about, Bootstrap, Tailwind, CSS. But under the hood, what happens is it's just CSS, right? So we have SAS here, not here, right? It. So these are the like bootstrap, right? We have tailwind. But what's the point of having all this? Yeah, they're like, yeah, we have date here. So on state can be like new date. We can access a lot of things there. Since we have the date in here, we have access to a lot of things like getting the date of the particular day, year, like current date, right? All of that. You can try it on your own. That's it. So yeah. So since we have these packages, but the important thing is you should know why is it working. The packages are there to help you like writing code in lesser time. So how it helps us, like if we are going to cover that packages, it's just since we are, if we try to write a uh, styling for particular h1, let's say. So let's say I do it. Let's say I give it a font size of 40 pixels, right? I give it a color of yellow. Yellow. Okay. Pretty much other properties too, right? And these packages, what it might help you, just you have a class here, just specify things here, right? The font size can be like they have text, so we have large text, so it is predefined, so it changes the text for us. For the color, so let's say text color, like text, right? 400, 500. So that's how you write it using these frameworks that I mentioned. But the important thing is you should know how is it working. तभी तो तुम पैकेजेस में लाइक वर्क कर पाओगे व्हेन यू नो दिस सीएसएस अबाउट इट, राइट? व्हिच इज efficient वेबसाइट proper code, proper like so we you should use these frameworks because uh, they are pretty much like advanced and pretty much updated. They are like no everyone like see कोई अगर कोई वेबसाइट एक्सेस कर रहा है तो they have packages in there. So most of the sites are using packages as of now. So onto your browser they already might have these packages uh, on their browser. Okay, so it's not that they are accessing your site and it's just first time that they are going to see those packages. Like a lot of sites do use them. So yeah, go for a framework, like pretty good ones, and then try to get your hands on it. But I would suggest first get a fundamentals on like how all this thing is working onto JavaScript, about CSS, right? So let's say you can definitely write animations in Tailwind, right? Any other framework. But how is it working? The interviewer is going to ask you. Let's say you made a project, you made a carousel using Bootstrap. Okay, you guys know what a carousel is, right? Yeah, so you made a carousel, but he told you that implement it from scratch using CSS, using JavaScript, just that. Don't use any packages. So what you going to do in that situation? So use packages, but you should know the building blocks, like how I can implement it from scratch, right? So जैसे अगर कोई भी पैकेज है और it is doing something, so okay, it's okay if it is helping you, but you should know under the hood what's happening. And अगर तुम्हें समझ में आ रहा है कि ये सब कैसे हो रहा है तो practice use करो and that's good. And if you don't know how is it working, then only again you are working on it. That's not good because you are lacking on some things that are important. So first cover them and then you can go for it, right? And these are the pretty basic things. Just it doesn't take a lot of time. So, so with that, what we have wrapped up so far, we talked about functions and different things, right? We talked about like variables, right? We talked about objects. We talked about inputs, right? We made pretty silly project. Yeah. Okay. We also like manipulating the UI, right? discuss some of the things there. Also, event listeners, right? So that was there. Yeah. So let me know your doubts for today's session, guys. Onto the comments. Also, let me know if the session was like uh, it was pretty basic, but you should know about all this. Let me, yeah. Let me know your doubts, guys. Yeah. What do we need to learn JS to learn React? Okay, so in uh, in React, what we do have actually like functions. So we do have components. Component is just like a UI part. So you that particular UI is represented as a function. So let's say this is a function. I call it component. And I'm returning what? I'm not returning a value, but I'm returning an HTML thing. That is like H1 here. You can do this in React, and you can just pretty much it is going to like reflect onto the UI. So since it is a function, you should have an idea about function, like what we are returning and what we can do like stuff here, right? And it's not that complex. You can just start using React, and just knowing that this function, what is function, what like uh, about the scopes of variables and all these things like parameters. So even if, when we do have this component, we also do have like props. Props are like parameters that you can use here. So that is also helpful for you. So do to know about these basics thing. We got also onto the upcoming session. Also, yeah, upcoming sessions you are going to make a React project, a portfolio project with Priyanshi, I guess. Yeah. So you are going to learn a lot of stuff there too. Click के अलावा और कौन सी लिस्ट में? Yeah. So as I told you, the listeners. So since user, how many ways user can interact using the keyboard or using their mouse. So with keyboard, we do have event listeners like pressing. Like we did press key like input of a key. Like let's say we press Control and Z. So that is an event like press key, right? Let's go on to the Launchpad site. So since I'm not clicking on register, but I'm just going on to it. Like I'm hovering over it. It just hover. Hover means not clicking on it, but just going over it, right? So I added a event listener here that say since user is going to hover over it, just scale down it. Okay. Also, let's talk about so we are using routing here. So we go to the learnings and we are onto the another page, right? So same thing happens here. We have the hover and we are adding like changing things here. So you get the idea about it, right? And there are pretty a lot of good websites that can show you. You can just go to the code pen. Yeah. You can just go to the code pen site. Yeah, and you can just see a lot of like a good projects made up of basic HTML, CSS, all that, and you can definitely create your own playground and start using it, right? So you have a pen here. You can create a pen, right? And you just start writing. Let me just open any of this. Let's say a pretty basic one. We don't have basic there. So people created projects here. Let's say we open this carousel. So we do have the HTML here, we CSS and JavaScript. So they just writing simple all of this, right? And this is the UI part. So you can just practice here. You can learn from others' projects, right? Cool stuff. Side is code pen. A lot of you might know about it, right? So these were the event like onto the resources. I'm going to specify what are the event lessons and all. You can just Google it also, but that's going to be into the resources too. Okay. Any other doubts? Anyone? Okay. Any doubts so far? Did you guys learn something? in today's session. It might be overkill for you, it might be basic for you, as your preference, right? But we try to cover things, right? So let me know the feedback, guys. And also one thing, give it a plus one if the session was good. Yeah. So these live sessions have this live chat functionality definitely. So you can show your doubts in here, and we are going to resolve it. Again, one thing. So this was the basic things that you saw, but we also do have some advanced thing in JavaScript. So just let me know in the comments. Do you guys want an extend of this JavaScript learning session? Like, do you want to like another session for JavaScript to learn more like complex thing in it, like callbacks and closures and a lot of things, how memory is being handled, all of that stuff. Just let me know so we can schedule. Or if that works fine, you can definitely let me know your reviews, guys. If you want to learn the level advanced about it. See, the thing is, since we did discuss a lot of things in today's session, but it's not that we did it from very scratch. It's not. It's impossible to cover it in a single stream. But we tried like we tried that this particular thing exists, and you can just head over to something and just learn about it, right? So anyone want the session about advanced JavaScript, right? Because that is going to definitely help you. So let me know. People might be interested, then we can. Yeah. So should we do another advanced JavaScript session, guys? If you guys are interested only, then we'll do it. Anyone? Okay. Uh, Interested? Yeah. You can put into the comments also. With that, let's wrap up today's session. If it was helpful, okay. Interested? I'm seeing interested comments here. So yeah, we'll try to come up with a advanced session of JavaScript tomorrow. Okay, if that works. Otherwise, Pranchi is going to take uh, a React project session. So where that's where you are going to build a React project with a and yeah, you're going to build a React project there. And those who want to learn about it, you can definitely head over to that session. Okay. So yeah, so whatever like the things that are being discussed into this session, try to come up with like implementing on your own. So since we are going to have another session afterwards, so you can just learn it today and have your doubts onto the another session, right? uh, okay, so let's wrap today's session, I guess. If there's any doubt, you can head over to my LinkedIn, and you can guys connect to me over there. How you can do it, you can just go to the team here, and you saw this, just click on it. You're going to redirect to the LinkedIn page, right? It's pretty easy. Okay, it's normal. Okay, good. The people who are asking for the okay. Hmm, yeah, so just go to the site, and just we have the team thing here. Just uh, click on this, and just you will be head over to the LinkedIn page. Okay, yeah, to connect there. Okay, with that, let's wrap the session. Uh, uh, and just comment your sessions, uh, what you want me to cover onto the upcoming session. And if you are having some doubt other than what we are trying to build up here, like DSA and all, you can also put that here. So our educators are going to connect, and they are going to cover the things afterwards. With that, okay. So lastly, was it helpful today's session? Just put a plus one, and just Like the stream, guys. Just do it for the sake of just because I'm asking. Yeah, yeah. It puts some motivations. Yeah, today's stream I think it might be long, but we are here to learn things, right? Yup. So you guys are amazing. Yeah, I'll see you. I'll definitely try to see you in the next one. Till then, bye, guys. Have a great time. See you. Bye.